Today's youth need teachers, volunteers, and most of all, well, they need you. I'm Doug Edwards, and I'm going to be talking with real youth mentors and students to give you the knowledge you need to be the best youth worker possible. This is Youth Worker on Fire.
Oh, you're trying to bring me down and run me out of town. You're taking what you want, but you can't take my rhythm now. I'm walking to my own beat, just gonna be me. I'm not replicating nobody.
So you have to keep practicing. If you want to win, you have to keep practicing. You have to practice the things that are right to do so that you don't fall into your old habits and the things that are wrong to do. There's some things I practice, and I don't practice enough, but I practice more than most people because I give most people this information that want to go on and want to better communicate with people. And once again, this is not easy in families. When you share with your family what you're doing so you can help them do it with somebody else, they don't take it very well. Trust me, I did that. But when I use this information, it does help my family because it's the right way to connect with people. It's the right way to help them feel that they are heard and know that they are seen and heard. But the writer and producer of this, Chris Voss, who was the number one FBI negotiator, now he has a business called the Black Swan Group, re-emphasized on Erika Taught Me, a podcast that I've talked to you about not long ago. And it just so happened that 2 weeks ago she had Chris Voss on. So I listened to her podcast with Chris 2 or 3, maybe 4 times. I listened to different parts of it. I listened to all of it at least twice, all the way through, because he gives the same information, but he'll give different illustrations, and sometimes he'll give the same illustrations. Why? Because practice makes perfect, because it's the same every time. It matters. There's one word that you need to use that if you want to, but let me ask you this. Do you want things to be the same as they've been in your communication? Well, hopefully you said no. You want them to be better. No. Why did I want you to say no? Because no is the quickest way to get to a yes. I learned that from Chris Voss. Never split the difference. So you have to practice that. So do you want things to be the same as they were? Do you want to go on and go, I just got to give up on this because, this is too hard? The right things to do are simple, but not easy. I learned that in business. I learned that in ministry. The right things to do are simple, but not easy. We try to make life complex. So in his interview, Erika asked Chris Voss, Chris, how do you use this in your life? How do you use these questions and what you learned in the FBI and what you do now and with other businesses and other organizations? And he's also been a student at Harvard and then a professor at Harvard, as well as, I believe it's either UCLA or USC. She said, how do you use this in your real life? Now, here's what he's using. Number one, the most powerful question you can ask people, Chris learned from a drug dealer. I just found that out this time. That's why it's good to go back and practice these things. I wanted to hear him again and see how he talked about this with Erika, and he did. He taught me something new. I found out where the question how came from. He said, drug dealers ask the FBI for help when people are kidnapped from them as well. Everybody goes to the FBI when they have somebody kidnapped, even drug dealers. And he said this drug dealer had another drug dealer steal or kidnap his girlfriend. And he said, when I was in the car with him, we were riding around and getting some information. The one question that Chris always tells us to ask, the most powerful question, he said he has to try to get his guys to use more than that, the people he trains that are on his team. But this question gets you almost everywhere you want to go, and that's, how can I do that? How can I do that? And in this case, he heard this drug dealer who had another drug dealer kidnap his girlfriend. He said, how can I get the money to you? How do I know she's even alive? And he said, that was my first clue about this how. And he said, normally we can't get things to happen as quickly as this guy did while he was with us, the FBI, driving around, trying to locate his girlfriend and talking to the drug dealer. He said, "How do I know she's even alive?" And there was a pause on the other side for a minute. And he said, well, hey, I'll let you talk to her right now. And got her on the phone. How to, instead of asking the question, why did you do this? What do you want me to do? How, why? We ask these why questions when we need to be asking how questions. And what he teaches us is that how engages a different part of the brain and makes us think when we are being asked the question how, our brain makes us think of the person who's asking that question. And it usually gets us anything and everything that we're looking for. You say that's manipulation. No, the not doing it that way is ridiculous, because instead of engaging with people in a way that their brain can handle it, we engage people and make them angry or make them upset. We do things the same way we've always done them, and getting the same results, the same wrong results that we don't want. So the how question is the biggest question, and he learned it from a drug dealer working with the FBI, trying to get his girlfriend back from another drug dealer. I never knew that until I listened to this interview, and I've listened to many, many interviews with Chris Voss over the last few years. So he says, you got to practice it. The second question is seems like. If you really want to pull things out of people, and does it work every time? Well, we'll talk about that in a second. Seems like is a very important question, because people will be angry or act angry, and he will bring up this question, and he has his team do it, and it works almost every time. So it doesn't work sometimes. Yeah, it doesn't work sometimes, because it depends on that black swan quality, and black swan is a true thing. The people didn't think there was a black swan. They thought, in theory, there should be. And so it was centuries after people were looking for the black swan that someone found a black swan in, I believe it was Australia. But it's that entity that you don't see coming. You don't know that you know that it could be there, but there's things you don't know and don't understand that are happening in the background. That's the only time that some of these things don't work. But most of the time, the how-to question, the seems like question, engages a particular part of the brain, and it does work, and I've used it myself. The other one that I'll tell you to do, and you can practice this is one I practice every day, instead of calling people and going, hey, you got a few minutes? Hey, how's everything going? Hey, let's talk for a while. Instead of just booming right into it, and I've learned, I've really stepped into it many times over the years, not knowing how to approach things like that. And people go, hey, wait a minute, listen, I'm in a meeting right now. I just answered because I knew it was you, and I am so sorry, I meant to ask you. Well, now the way I ask people when they answer, I say, hey, is this a bad time? And you say, that is such a weird way to ask people when they answer the phone, is this a bad time? You want people to give them the chance to say no. No is an empowering answer. People need to be able to say no. They're used to people using them and controlling them over the decades and maybe at least 100 years of business. And it's gotten into our society that we say, hey, if we can just get people to say yes. And they found that no, getting people to say yes now makes them feel taken advantage of, wanting to find a way to get out of whatever they said yes to. But when they say no, that part of their brain goes, listen, oh, good, he's given me or she's given me an opportunity to say no to whatever it is they're asking. And he said, when I ask that question, people say, no, this is a good time. See, no. Is this a bad time? No, this is a good time. Okay. Or you're going to get, well, I am in a meeting right now. Great, man. That's all I need to hear. And I've said this to my relatives. I've said this to other people. Listen, I'll call you back another time. Is there another time to call back? Or they will offer, hey, this is a bad time. I'm talking to someone right now. But if you will call me Tuesday at 3:00. He said, what'd you do? You've got an appointment now. Or call me this afternoon at 6 or whatever. You want to be able to give people the opportunity to say no and not to just bust or burst into the world when they're too busy. So there's those three things. Those are just small, partial portions of this large book called Never Split the Difference. But it's important, Erika says, it's Erika with a K, by the way. Chris, how do you use this in your life? What works for you? He says, number one, I practice every day. He said, if you don't practice, you just start slipping up and you get back into your old habits. And by the way, that's something I found out with myself. If I don't practice this stuff, I just start getting into my old habits because it's easy to slip into your old habits, and it causes arguments and causes misunderstandings and on and on and on. So he said it, and that really helped me. The number one thing is I practice it every day. Number two, I will win more times than I will lose, but I will walk away or revisit when I ask, can we try this again? When there's times that when I try this, but I get off into my own tangent and I don't use my own methods correctly, or if I use them, but there's this black swan thing coming on, where we don't see what's happening in the background. We don't really know. We can't put our finger on it, and things blow up. I come back sometimes, Chris says, and I'll say, I really seem to have messed up last time, or I really messed up last time, and is it possible you could give me another chance to try again? And so he says, sometimes I get to try again. Maybe weeks later, maybe days later, maybe months later. Number three, I practice in little ways in my personal life every day so I am ready in the big decisions. So how do you do that? Number four, TSA. He said, when I fly a lot. And he says, so I go through the TSA line. And he said, those guys are always having a bad day. So there's this one guy I saw, and I said, I tried to use my methods. How's your day going? Having a bad day? And the guy says, no, it's good. So Chris said, okay, that was a fail. I didn't see. He said, the guy really looked like he wasn't having a bad day. He didn't have any. He said, I knew that, but I thought I'd find out anyway. And he said, so that was not a win. He said, in that guy's mind, he's going, that's just what you ask everybody you see. Again, then he said, not bad, but just an okay day. The guy said, yeah, just the same old stuff. He said, I get you. I see what's happening. Yeah. Some days you just got to get through them. That was a win, he said. He realized that I saw and heard him. Never give pat answers without identifying true feelings. People need other authentic people. They need to be seen for who they are and what they're going through. A great example of that was Jesus was so good at this. Well, he's the Son of God. He knew about this method way before Chris Voss ever showed up, right? Because he knows all things. He was in the beginning. He was there at creation. He was there before creation. And he came to earth to identify with us. So John 4, the 4th chapter, he's talking to the woman at the well. That is a common story, a story that we know about. The woman said to him after having a conversation, number one, she knew he shouldn't be having a conversation with her. He was a Jew and she was a Samaritan, which means a half-Jew, half-breed. Back then they were looked down upon. Jewish people did not speak to Samaritans, and men did not speak to women. Jesus broke all the rules of tradition, and that, not all of them, I don't mean it that way, but he broke the rules in order to do what God wanted to do at times, because people made up rules that were not always God's rules or laws to accommodate, whatever in their society. So the woman said to him, Sir, give me this water that you talk about, this living water, so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water. And he ignores that, and he told her, he says, go call your husband and come back. And the lady says, I have no husband. She immediately realized he knew her. He got her. This had to be a prophet. He sees me. Not only does he see me, he's seen my past life. There's no way he could have been able to do that. She immediately ran back and told everybody in the city, because they all knew about her life. They said, come see the prophet, come see the man. Could this be the Messiah? Could this be him? Come, you got to come. He told me everything in my life. He knew me. How often are people waiting us, students, parents, board members, pastors, are they waiting for us to see them? Not many people practice these methods. How can I help you? How can I do that? How can I fix this? Seems like you're having a bad day. Seems like you're very angry. Seems like you think I haven't heard you. And remember to get them to say no to questions, not yes, so they feel empowered that they have the right to be heard. All right, so hopefully this has helped you to revise this, to go back and realize that practice to win. You want to practice to win. And I used to think negotiation was a horrible word. It's just a dirty word. And I still struggle with it. Why? Because old ways like to creep in. But what I know is when I use these terms and these phrases, and he works with businesses that are billionaire businesses and millionaire businesses, and he worked with some of the worst criminals in the world and hostages from all over the world, not only in the United States. Hopefully this has helped you to remember that you can communicate better. If I had known these things when I was in student ministry, I found this stuff after student ministry. And if you were to talk to Chris Voss and you were to say, oh, Chris, man, I needed this 15 years ago, he'd say, well, I didn't write this 15 years ago. It wasn't available 15 years ago. That's what God does. He will bring things into our life when we need to see them. Hopefully, even though it didn't help me during that time, I had to learn to do different things and without any help while I was in student ministry. But my student ministry, the way I worked with board members and church members and parents and my own family would have been different. What about you? Are you ready to practice it to win it? Are you ready to win? Then start praying, Lord, help me to change the way I speak, how I ask questions. Because, Lord, it seems like you want me to win.
You've been listening to the Youth Worker on Fire podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and tell your friends. Also, leave a comment and tell us what you think. Stay tuned for more informative episodes.